When did fake it until you make it backfire? A writer I know decided he could make easy money writing romance novels under a false name. Even though he didn't like romance novels at all. Turns out it wasn't that easy. But he was very good at it and got stuck writing romance novels for a living for a while. Hating his job and not having time to write anything he actually wanted to write. I'm picturing Stephen King being afraid of the dark. I hired a Mandarin translator for a game I'm developing. Ran her translations through Google Translate. To find they were a good match. Too good a match. Showed it to a friend of mine who's from China. Told me the translator just Google translated everything and that the end result was barely comprehensible. When? Due to a tight budget on a magazine I edited. Way back when. We couldn't afford a fashion correspondent. So I did it myself under an assumed female name. I'm male, and didn't tell anyone. Surprisingly, it was quite well received. Ran for 3 months or so before I got invited to a clothing launch. I knew a girl who would apply to jobs she was unqualified for, including a job at NASA and at Apple. She lied about her qualifications on her resumes. She landed several high-paying jobs, but would get fired after a month or two once her co-workers realized she did not have the skills to fulfill her duties. She would boast on Facebook about how she landed her dream job every few months. Not sure what she's doing now since I haven't spoken to her in years. I believe she moved to another country. Oh. And she took credit for the Mars rover and for the Beatles on iTunes. That's amazing. I'm actually jealous of her ability to not give a duck about getting caught like that. I would be so mortified if I was found out. I would hide in a meat locker until I withered and died of it. The humiliation would be too much to even cope with, and some people just shrug it off and are like, "Wootevs, on to my next dream job." Got a job working in an insurance company reviewing contracts. Had no ducking idea what I was doing and thought I could just learn it and I'd be fine eventually. Lasted 6 months and they kicked me out. Similar story for me. Got a job at a mortgage broker. Their limited training was meant for people who had already worked in the industry. Not newbies like me. I'm good at test taking, so I passed the mortgage originator licensing exam on the first try. Had no idea what I was doing trying to sell mortgages though. And without income from commissions I was making minimum wage. Eventually the boss found out I was applying for other jobs. Gave me an ultimatum. Quit looking for other jobs or quit working for him. I asked him for a box to carry my stuff out. Place went under in 6 months anyway. I went on to get a job I was qualified for that I've now had for 10 years. I took orchestra in elementary school and I eventually realized that I was just not going to understand violin. But I still wanted to be in orchestra because it had some perks. So, whenever we had lesson I put my fingers over the strings and moved my bow around like I meant it. When we had to play individually, I had to do it for real. I thought maybe, by some miracle, I'd get it and play normally. I didn't. I was 8 years old and I told my dance teacher I could do a backbend. I couldn't, so she moved me up a level in acro and put me in a special role for our recital. For the next week my mom tried to help me get a backbend, but it wasn't happening and I had to come clean. Luckily she didn't get too mad. I had to move back down a level. But I still got to keep my special role. Reminds me of when Joey, Friends, fakes his resume for a part in a musical. Lol. Got a part-time job as a bartender to help with bills. Told them I knew how to bartend. I can pour a whiskey, coke and beer, so just figured I'd pick up the rest as I went along. First week I was serving to get to know the menu and someone called in sick. Owner makes me bartend. So I'm doing fine. Just beers and a few mixed drinks. Then a party of about 40 people coming from a wedding come in and starts asking for all these different shots. Different specialty drinks. etc. Totally ate my pants. Brazilian soccer star, Carlos Kaiser, was able to maintain a career that spanned nearly 2 decades while playing in as few games as possible and never scoring a goal. Kaiser would often carry a fake cell phone with him. pretending to answer calls from interested English clubs in order to make himself appear more valuable to his teammates and coaches. He would also fake injuries during practices, then ride out his contract a few months, collecting paychecks along the way. Oh, the long con. A true hustler. Fire Festival definitely comes to mind. That was just fraud. Lol. Is anyone on this plane a doctor? I'm a doctor. Comma of philosophy. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen is that you do make it. Because when you do fake it to make it, you still have to fake it to keep it. I'm still in the same career field faking that I care about numbers and competition and wearing nice clothes. Advice to me younger self, if you have to fake it till you make it, you don't want to make it. Same boat. Cubicle drone here running the rat race so I don't get fired just so I can pay my mortgage for a house that I'm not even sure I wanted to get. When someone asks if I've seen a movie and I lie and say yes to fit in. When they ask for my favorite part or my opinion on a part I'm exposed. No, I've been meaning to see that. Don't ruin it for me. Then you move on to the next topic. Getting an internship and realizing IDK what the duck I'm doing and I had to learn a lot real fast before they caught on. Edit. Forgot to mention how it backfired LMAO. My first week I sucked at maintaining consistent communication and my manager, very professionally, reamed me out over the phone and after he hung up I cried in an office room for an hour. But I never made that mistake again. I work as an accountant with a theater background. I'm 6 years in and I'm working solo with no one above me in the company besides the owners. I have an audit, a $16 million lock to acquire, and another company we just purchased. This is the tipping point, I'm sure. This is exactly what consultants are for. Hire Deloitte or Accenture and get a promotion for your executive leadership. We need a third party to give us an objective assessment during the mandate. This will reduce our risk and better position us to integrate our solutions and go-to-market strategy. Okay. I guess it ultimately didn't backfire. But it's a pretty good story I was told in film school years ago. Back in the 80s/90s. A guy snagged an interview for a camera operating job at a TV production company that was way above his experience level. The interviewer gave him a camera. Said, okay. Take this apart and lay it all out for me. You have 20 minutes. And left him there. After panicking for a minute. He walked down the hall. Found a technician working and asked him to take apart the camera for him. Which he did. Interviewer comes back. Says, good work. Now put it back together. And goes off to put out some other fires. Our guy tracks down the tech. Who obliges again. And he was hired. When I heard this story, the guy had worked in the field 15 or so years, so I guess things worked out. Went to visit my older cousin in a big city, small town girl. Before going out, he told me that the friends we would be meeting are super snobby. And would probably make fun of me if I told them I was from small town A. Today I would tell him to get better friends. But when I was 18 I just wanted to fit in. We agree I would tell them I'm from City X. So the blonde bombshell in the group, 6 years older, starts talking to me while my cousin and his friend head off to buy shots. Where are you from? Who am? City X. OMG. Me too. She proceeds to ask me which school I went to, which coffee shop was my favorite and where my parents work, just making polite conversation. Of course. I do the adult thing and confess, make up an entire fake life story. My cousin gets back to the table with the shots and I have never been more grateful for the opportunity to put alcohol in my mouth and stop words from coming out. At seeing me knock back my shot like an animal, my cousin forgets our cover story and loudly proclaims, good God. You don't have to drink like you do in small town A. Just chill. I did not look at bombshell for the rest of the night. I have seldom wanted the earth to swallow me as much as I did in that moment. Dating a close friend that I wasn't even remotely attracted to. I thought the feelings that I was supposed to have would kick in. But they didn't. This happened to a friend of mine. He is socially awkward and didn't feel like he could ask out the girl he wanted to, so he asked out her friend. She was, let's be honest, she was like a 3. He was realizing it wouldn't work, then she gave him a handmade quilt and he felt bad. Fast forward about 5 years after that. He kept the relationship going. Then he finds out she has been cheating on him with a mutual friend. They were engaged in a month and married less than a year later. My advice is be honest and move on. It hasn't yet. Everyone still thinks I'm human. Mark Zuckerberg? Is that you? Worked with a successful guy whose reputation was he spends 50% of his time on the job working on his old job. And 50% on his next job. Was true. Unfortunately, he piloted his plane into a set of power lines. That reminds me of the guy on Reddit who pretended to his girlfriend's parents he has never heard of potatoes before. Tastes very strange. The guys who act like they are ex-special forces on the first day of basic training because they were in JROTC in high school. I remember one saying, I've basically already done this every year since I was a freshman. As we got off the bus, idiot washed out by week 2. I taught some anatomy and physiology labs to pre-nursing majors. These girls knew more about anatomy and physiology than I did. I'm an expert in ecology. But somehow I got the job of teaching this class. I figured I'd just look at the answers on the worksheets as the semester went on. When I finally got the student feedback, it was a blow to my sense of confidence. About half of them did indeed notice that I had just been looking at the ducking worksheet answers. That I was relaxed and chill with being a dad. When he came out I died a little inside and did not know what to do. It eventually worked out when I lost my job and became a stay-at-home dad for 3 months, and now that boy loves me more than his mom. How does that backfire? I can't take a writ alone. My 2-year-old has to be in there like a ducking air marshal and his prisoner. This happened pretty recently. There was this one girl in my big group of friends that I just couldn't stand. But everyone else's liked her, so I just went with it and pretended that I liked her. Well, one night we were all getting drunk at one of my friends' houses. And I was asked to tell a secret, and I told everyone including her that I hated her. Turns out almost everyone else felt the same. At Nelson Mandela's funeral, people took note of the sign language interpreter that seemed to just be making random hand gestures instead of actual sign language. Turns out he had made quite a few appearances previously and nobody had caught on that he knew literally no sign language. To me, this dude is just the poster child for fake it till you make it. I had a new part-time job. First couple days there I felt terrible. Stressed. Anxious. And depressed. I pushed through it and starting feeling okay with the job with occasional feelings of stress. 6 weeks and I had a mental breakdown in front of some co-workers. I quit later that week out of shame and to help my mental health. I later weighed myself and found that I had lost around 20 pounds. Over the time I worked there. Weight I wasn't trying to lose. I faked being good at computer science until I graduated from college with a computer science degree and didn't get a job, lol. Not me. But it backfires all the time in MLM's pyramid schemes. They actually tell you to fake it till you make it. But no matter how many times you lie on social media about being a boss babe, you will never make it. I had a job that I was way underqualified for. Yet I still was surprisingly given the offer. 8 months in. The fact really started to show that I wasn't the assumed genius savior the hiring manager thought I was. Fortunately, I got offered a different job by someone who wasn't really desperate to hire. The 45th President of the US. A few years ago I got a job interview after months of looking. I was desperate. I thought I was going to be working in the mail room for the city, but when I arrived it turned out it was for delivering mail between city offices. Okay. No big deal. I can do that. Well, in my province we have G1 learners. G2 still have some restrictions about when who you can drive with, and G full license. Well, I needed my full G for the job but hadn't gotten around to doing the test. No big deal. I thought. I'll just go along and schedule a test ASAP. Hopefully before any paperwork needs to be done. So I went through the interview and I think I'm home free. But no. They want to do a driver's test right then and there. And I need to present my license to the testing company. Thinking quick. I tell them I don't have my license on me. Well. They need it and they were willing to find a city employee to drive me back out to my house. 30 minutes away, and get it. Backed into a corner. I finally have to admit that I don't have my G license. I blurted it out and basically ran out of the office and didn't look back. Still one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.